Transworld Sport this week.
Man still has huge possibilities which are just waiting to be discovered.
We monitor an experiment at the top of the world where the guinea pigs are humans who never rest on Everest.
The people of Tibet in Central Asia form one of the world's oldest surviving cultures. Rarely visited from the West, we have a unique opportunity to record a piece of sporting history in this country, where the mighty pinnacles of the Himalayas provide the dramatic backdrop for an extraordinary race. For the first time in history, and in an attempt to discover the physiological limits of man's performance, a marathon has been planned on the Tibetan plateau at an altitude of 15,000 feet. At this height, oxygen pressure is 40% lower than at sea level, limiting oxygenation of the blood and subsequently inhibiting performance. The question is, can man run at such heights for extended periods? And if so, how fast? The Peak Performance Project, devised by Italian mountaineer Marino Giacometti, intends to provide the answers.
We've created a team of sky runners, specialist mountain runners and elite athletes who can take on the challenge of record-breaking mountain ascents and descents and compete at extremely high altitudes, enabling us to take sport to some of the most beautiful places on Earth.
In their attempt to realize the heights to which we can aspire, Giacometti's largely Italian-based team of sky runners have already begun to make history. Adriano Greco, Italy's mountain running and ski touring champion, holds the record for the fastest ascent and descent of Europe's highest peak, Mont Blanc, at just over 7 hours. Fabio Moraldi covered a 4-day trek of 46 kilometers at heights of 17,000 feet in 5 hours 39 minutes to become the winner of the first Everest Sky Marathon in Nepal. This year's marathon also includes sky runner representatives from America. Tom Johnson, 3-time winner of America's most prestigious ultra-distance race, the Western States 100-miler. And Matt Carpenter, 4-time winner and record holder for the ascent and descent of the Pikes Peak Marathon in Colorado. Amongst the female competitors is Britain's Hélène Diamantides, one of the world's best mountain runners, with countless records and titles to her name. The team are accompanied by Dr. Sergio Roy, who's heading an investigation to determine the energy expenditure, dehydration, muscular fatigue, and hormone changes brought on by the stress of elite performance at altitude.
I think that the most important thing for us to realize is that the level and limits of human performance are not yet known. Man still has huge possibilities which are just waiting to be discovered.
In an attempt to prevent any of the athletes falling victim to altitude sickness before the race, this unique experiment begins with a few vital days of training and acclimatization at lower heights of 12 to 13,000 feet.
It was a real shock the first couple of days at 12,000 feet. We were wheezing going up the stairs, and pulse was always high, laying in bed at night with your heart pounding. It was kind of a bad feeling. You felt like you were sick.
The group's ability to acclimatize and perform at altitude is put to the test in an experiment to determine their aerobic threshold. above which performance is diminished. Wearing heart monitors and running 400-meter laps over 12 minutes, this version of the Cooper test will enable Dr. Roy to determine an optimum heart rate for each athlete for peak performance at altitude. The results put Colorado-based Matt Carpenter as firm favorite, having covered 406 meters more than the rest of the group with relative ease.
I'm fortunate that I do live at altitude, and that helps a lot, and my major races have been recently, so I am in race shape. It's kind of a relief to come to so high and run, because I find that it's a test of your lungs and your heart, and my legs get a much needed rest.
After 7 days acclimatization, tests and training, the athletes gather on a corner of the vast Tibetan plateau, overlooked by the greatest mountains on Earth, to prepare their minds and bodies for the race of a lifetime. Mark, Carpenter is leading despite having lost 11 minutes by taking a wrong turn.
Well, man, I took a wrong turn. I get to pass people twice.
15 minutes behind Carpenter is Italian marathoner Silvano Fedel and Tom Johnson. Behind them, a group headed by Fabio Meraldi and Martino Giovanni. Only half an hour behind the leading men, Helen Diamantides and Bruna Panetti head the women's field. Over the second half of the course, Carpenter increases his lead, running at an astonishing speed of 7 minutes to a mile, comparable to a 5-minute mile at sea level. All 26 minutes ahead of the rest of the field, he crosses the finish in 3 hours, 5 minutes and 40 seconds, becoming the first man ever to have run a marathon distance at such an altitude.
This is incredible. Everybody's all smiles, and you know, it's such a great event that Bill has put on here to come over here and see a new country, and you know, nothing couldn't have worked out any better.
The race becomes an American double as Tom Johnson reaches the line in just over 3.5 hours to take second place, followed by another double, Meraldi and Ettore Champretavi. Having edged ahead of Diamantides, Panetti's lead takes her across the finish in 4 hours 22:33. Only 6 runners failed to complete the SkyMarathon, but the results of this experiment will only become known over the next few months. The Skyrunners leave Tibet having made history on the roof of the world. The only question now is how much higher and how much faster will they be able to go?